Welcome to our daily Forex market analysis, and this is for trading on November the 12th, 2019. Just a quick disclaimer here before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. All right, so as usual, we'll start off by taking a look at our calendar here. So today was a slow day in the market. There was a bank holiday for both Canada and the US. So fairly slow day. We had some data come out for in the European session. But coming up here, we have inflation data out of New Zealand here. And if the data comes out higher than the previous print here, we're likely to see New Zealand dollar go up or vice versa there. And coming up on Tuesday here, we do have average earnings data, so employment numbers out of UK. So these numbers are kind of like the non-farm payroll numbers that have come out for the US. So important piece of data. It points to what the economy is doing and how the employment situation is in the country. And as a result of that, there are actually two numbers we need to look at. One is just the employment data, how many people are employed, also the average earnings. So if the average earnings go down, that is also not good. So if the positive employment data comes out, but average earnings don't come out as good, then we could still see British pound go down. So keep an eye on that. And we also have a ZEW economic sentiment here, which is for our Eurozone here. So if this number is worse than what's expected here, we could see a negative impact on the euro. Other than that, we have FOMC, one of the FOMC members speaking, but New York session seems fairly quiet. Other than that, we have Westpac consumer sentiment numbers here. So the sentiment numbers are important because they kind of tell us how the consumers are feeling or how the businesses are feeling. So the sentiment numbers are important. We have to pay attention to it because they can create volatility in the market. So if the number is below the previous number here, then we could see Australian dollar drop. Very important data that's coming out here in the Asian session tomorrow, excuse me, is our New Zealand dollar data here. We are looking for an interest rate cut. If the Reserve Bank of New Zealand does not cut interest rate, that will be positive for New Zealand dollar. Or if they cut the interest rate, but then have positive or make positive statements, that could push New Zealand dollar up. So keep an eye on it. Some of this will be already priced in. So we could see a bigger impact if the data or if the Reserve Bank of New Zealand actually says something that's positive for New Zealand dollar, we could see a big spike up. But otherwise, if they do cut the rates and if their commentary is negative, we're likely to see a drop in New Zealand dollar. So that's it for our news coming up. Now, another thing to keep in mind will also be what's going on with the US and China trade negotiations. So last week we saw that President Trump came out and said that he had not agreed to the tariffs. So any kind of comments like this where it says that President Trump is going to agree to the tariffs, or if President Trump himself comes out and says they have agreed to delay the tariffs, all of that would be positive for the stock market. And then it will also be positive for yen crosses, but negative for gold, silver, and any of the safe haven assets. So just keep that in mind as we are trading tomorrow. Now let's take a look at our charts here. So we'll start off with euro dollar. So for the euro dollar here, price hasn't really done much. It's pulled back a bit here. And in this case here, we could get a deeper pullback here, potentially into 1.1050 level, or into the high of the day today, which is at 140. So I would say 50-ish level, 1.1050. And then I will look for a drop from there. So right now, it looks like this one could pull up a bit more. So overall bias is to the downside, but we could get a pullback. Sorry, quick question here. How did I get the news stories below here? They just automatically show up. So if you just scroll down on your Forex Factory, you'll see all these news stories in Forex Factory. Okay, so with this one here, this one could go up a bit more. So watch out for that. So either the retest of today's high or the retest of the top of this candle here, something like that. And then we could see a drop. So look out for more of a pullback here. And it could even go into this previous area, 1.1070. So just keep an eye out for where it wants to pull to. I do like this 1.1050 level. So looking for price to drop from there. So overall bias is to the upside, but we could get a pullback either all the way here or into here before it continues lower. So right now looking for pullbacks. Overall bias is still to the downside, but I am looking for price to pull back a bit more and then continue lower. So bearish bias, but I would be cautious with where this one pulls back to. Pound dollar here, this one here also we had seen a drop here, but price has gone back up. It hasn't held below. And right now, this looks a little bullish. So we could see price go up. And in this case, I would target today's high. And then this one could potentially go up even higher into, so first one, I'm looking for it to pull back into 1.29 and then a 1.2940-ish level. So this one is actually bullish, and we could see price go up higher. So bias here is bullish for pound dollar, and target. The first target is today's high of 1.2900, and then further it can go into 2950 or even all the way into 2980. So watch out for that. So it looks like this one wants to go back into our range that it has been trading in for some time. Now there is a bit of a trend line here to the downside. What we could see is price goes into the trend line and then it could drop. So just keep an eye on it, but looking for a further pullback, bullish bias for pound dollar. Aussie dollar here, this one is looking bearish here. We have a small candle body here, but overall bias is to the downside. Price is making lower highs. So looking for it to drop further, bearish bias 0.6800 is the target to the downside. So bearish bias for Aussie dollar. New Zealand dollar here, this one has pulled back a bit. So we do have a bullish candle close here. We could see price go up into 0.6400, and then I'm looking for it to drop from there. So overall bias still stays to the downside, but look for a deeper pullback here than what we have today. So today's candle body is bullish, so I am looking for a bit of a deeper pullback here for New Zealand dollar, and then first target would be the bottom of the red candle here, 0.6320, and then we could see it drop further only if it goes through this level. But for now, I am looking for a deeper pullback into 0.6400. Dollar CAD here, this one is looking bullish. Price is right into resistance though, so we have to be careful. Overall bias is bullish, but I would be cautious with this one because if price does not go through the high here, if it does not hold above, then this one could turn down. So cautious with this one, but it is bullish, and I'm looking for price to go up further here. So bullish bias here for dollar CAD. Only if it goes through 1.3240 would I look for the next target, and next target is 1.3300. So bullish bias for dollar CAD. All right, let's take a look at commodities here. We have gold prices into support here, this resistance turning into support here. So for now, it's neutral bias, not a very strong candle. You could see price just get stuck here. It's right into that support turning into resistance here. So we have a ton of support resistance levels here. So watch out for that. It's strong support resistance. If it doesn't go through this high, we could see a drop. And also if the US and China, again, we hear positive comments about the trade deal or US agreeing to delaying the tariffs, all of that would be positive for the stock market and negative for safe haven assets like silver and gold. So this is the move we could see. On the other hand, though, there is some bullishness in this candle. We could see price pull back higher here. We have had quite a drop, and we do tend to see price will pull back after a drop like this. So it could go higher into this support resistance level, which is 17.20, and then drop from here. So for now, though, bias is neutral. I'm looking to see how price reacts to the high of today. If it goes through 16.90, then I'm looking for 17.20. Otherwise, I will look for price to drop back into 16.60 and then potentially into 16.20. So neutral bias for silver here. Gold here, gold has dropped a bit. So bias is bearish here, but the momentum is not quite there. It's losing momentum now. As you can see, before the candles were quite long and widespread. Now they're compressing, they're becoming smaller and smaller. And this tends to happen when market is getting ready to turn. Today's candle close, though, is neutral here. So what I would look for is to see how price reacts at the high and low of today's candle. So if price goes through the high of today's candle, I will look for it to go into 1476 and then potentially into 1493. But if it drops through the bottom of 1448, it could go even lower into 1435, which is our next level of support and resistance. So right now, bias is neutral for gold. Oil here, oil has really not done a whole lot. It's reacting at our resistance level, holding below this 57.50 level. So at this point, I'm looking for price to drop. Bias is bearish here toward the bottom of this range. It is range bound at the moment. So just be mindful of that. I'm looking for price to drop into 55.80, and only if it goes through that level would I look for 55.00. So for now, bias is bearish for oil. Copper here, copper is bearish. We are into support, so just be careful. Just like this one here, price was into support and then it couldn't go through, so went higher. So again, we are into support, but it's a nice solid bearish candle. So once we see a break, I'm looking for a pullback and a drop here. So bias is bearish. Next target is 2.57, but with caution here. Bitcoin moving lower. We are right into the support, but price seems to have a momentum to the downside. So bias is bearish. Next target is 8,300. And then once price gets through this support, once it drops through the support, it opens up this entire area. And then we could see essentially price starting to go lower. So watch out for that. Bias is bearish for Bitcoin, and 8,300 is the target. All right, so S&P 500 today hasn't really done much. The equity markets or the markets were closed in the US because of the holiday. So overall, bias is bullish here. We do have a pin to the downside. So bias here is neutral right now because it hasn't broken through the high. We do have a pin to the downside, which means this one could go higher. But there is bearishness in the candle as well. So neutral bias here, looking for it to come back toward 3060. But be prepared that this one could move higher, especially if US agrees to delaying the tariffs. This one could get pushed up higher. So neutral bias for now. What I would look for here would be a bit of a move lower, and then this one could go higher. So we could see a retest either of 3064 or just into these pins here. So we could see a move like this and then further. So watch out for that. Overall bias is still bullish. but we get a bit of a pullback here before it goes back up again. So neutral bias here for S&P 500. Nasdaq here. Nasdaq, same thing here. It hasn't quite broken the high, so it's not completely bullish. But overall, it has been going up. So overall bias or the trend is still bullish, but this one could also drop towards 81.70 before it continues further. That's the move I would look for, and then a further move higher. So neutral bias, looking for a bit of a pullback before a continuation. Sorry, this one is Dow Jones here. Same thing here. Market was closed, so not much of a movement. Here, basically, it is still bullish here. We could get a bit of a pullback again before continuation. So bullish bias here, but we are into resistance. If it doesn't clear the resistance, this one can drop as well. But bias is bullish for Dow Jones. DAX here. DAX is still looking bullish here. And target here, first target is 13,250, then 13,300. 13,300 essentially is target to go towards a high here. Overall, still pushing higher, so bullish bias for DAX here. FTSE is also looking, FTSE dropped quite a bit here, but we have a pin in the bottom, which means this could move higher here. But I would be careful with this one. So let's say neutral for this one. We need to see how the market opens here. Big pin in the bottom usually suggests a move higher, so be prepared for that. But the drop here could also cause it to go sideways. So for now, I'm neutral on this. We'll need to see how it opens and reacts around 73.50-ish area, which is where it had trouble before, or even into, so 73.50 area. We'll see how it reacts there. If it doesn't go through, this one could come back down here, but it has a large pin in the bottom, which means this one quickly go through it and continue on higher. For now, this is neutral. And then Nikkei here, Nikkei has dropped a bit. This one could, so this is how I would look at this one. Bias here is neutral, but there's a large pin in the bottom, which means if price stays above 23,200, we're looking for price to basically go toward the top of the range here, toward 23,600. So for now, bias is neutral. As long as it holds above 23,200, we're looking for a move higher. So neutral bias here, neutral to bullish here. So that's it for today. You guys have a wonderful trading day tomorrow, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.